The sun had always been the one thing humanity could trust, a celestial metronome that governed every heartbeat of civilization. But on a Tuesday that felt entirely ordinary, the rhythm broke. Elias Thorne, a veteran atmospheric physicist whose life was measured in solar cycles and data streams, sat in his darkened office at the Mauna Kea Observatory. He wasn't looking at the sky. He was looking at a sensor reading that shouldn't exist. The Earth's rotation was decelerating at a rate that defied every law of physics. It wasn't a gradual shift over eons. It was a violent, silent mechanical failure of the planet itself. By 4 a.m. local time, the stars didn't crawl across the sky, they jerked. Elias watched through the glass as the constellations stalled and then, with a sickening visual drag, began to migrate backward. He didn't call the authorities. He knew that by the time he explained the impossible, the world would already be screaming. As the hour of dawn approached in the Western Hemisphere, the atmosphere began to howl. The sudden shift in rotational momentum triggered supersonic winds that tore through the Pacific, but Elias remained focused on the horizon where the sun was never meant to appear. In San Francisco, millions of people woke up not to a gradual glow, but to a sky that looked like a bruised plum. The western horizon over the Pacific Ocean began to bleed a deep, neon violet. It wasn't the soft gold of a California morning. This was a harsh, terrifying ultraviolet surge. When the first sliver of the sun broke over the waves in the west, the world went silent. It was a visual paradox that broke the human brain. Shadows stretched toward the mountains instead of the sea. The warmth felt wrong, prickly, and electric. Elias drove down the mountain, passing stalled cars and people standing on their roofs, filming the impossible with trembling hands. The internet was a graveyard of end-of-days hashtags, but Elias saw something the influencers didn't. He noticed that the sun wasn't just rising in the wrong place. It looked larger. It looked closer. He realized that the Earth hadn't just reversed its spin, it was being pulled. As he reached the coastline, the gravity began to fluctuate. He felt light, his footsteps turning into long, moon-like strides. The ocean wasn't just churning, it was mounting. A massive bulge of water was following the sun's new path, a tidal wave the size of a continent rising to meet the inverted dawn. He took refuge in an old bunker used for seismic monitoring, clutching a satellite phone that shouldn't have worked. It rang. It was a colleague from the International Space Station, his voice a frantic whisper over static. The colleague didn't talk about the Earth. He told Elias to look at the moon. Elias stepped outside into the searing western heat and looked up. The moon was gone. In its place was a dark, shimmering ripple in the fabric of space, a gravitational lens that was swallowing the light of the stars. This wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't a shift in the Earth's core. The solar system was being reconfigured by something outside of it. The twist began to reveal itself when Elias checked the global GPS coordinates. Every satellite was reporting that Earth was no longer in its orbit. We were being towed. The sun rising in the west wasn't our sun at all. As the glare intensified, the yellow light turned into a brilliant, sterile white. The clouds began to crystallize into strange, geometric patterns. Elias realized that the atmosphere was being flash frozen on the dark side and boiled on the light side. Yet he felt a strange, artificial stability. The wind stopped instantly. The birds fell silent. In the final hour of the first day of the new dawn, the white sun reached its zenith. Elias looked through a specialized solar filter and saw the impossible. There were no sunspots. There was no corona. The object in the sky was a perfect, seamless sphere of polished chrome, millions of miles wide. The Earth hadn't just reversed its spin. It had been captured and placed into a massive, celestial laboratory. The western sunrise was the moment the cage door closed. The unexpected turn hit Elias as he watched a message broadcast not on the radio, but directly into his mind. It wasn't an alien invasion in the way Hollywood had promised. There were no ships, no lasers, just a voice, ancient and cold, echoing in the consciousness of every human being on the planet simultaneously. The voice explained that the experiment of the forward rotation had concluded after 4 billion years. The data on human conflict and biological evolution had been harvested. Now, the reverse cycle was beginning to see if humanity could survive a world where time, light, and gravity moved backward. Elias looked at his watch. The hands were moving counterclockwise. He looked at the ocean, and the massive tidal wave was frozen in midair, defying gravity as the new sun pulsed with a rhythmic, mechanical hum. The people around him weren't screaming anymore. They were staring at their hands as their skin began to smooth, wrinkles disappearing, gray hair turning dark. They weren't just living in a reversed world, they were being unmade. The sun rising in the west wasn't the end of the world, it was the reset button. Elias felt his own memories slipping, the knowledge of the old East fading like a dream. He tried to write down the truth, but the ink flowed out of the paper and back into his pen. As the sun began its descent toward the east, Elias Thorne forgot his name, forgot the stars, and smiled at the beautiful, terrifying violet dawn of a world that was learning to live backward. Humanity wasn't dying. It was being forced to repeat its history in reverse, and the true horror was the realization that they were destined to end exactly where they began, as a single, silent spark in the dark, waiting for a sunrise that would never come again.